Oh, hey there, guys. Been a while.
It's been a minute.
Thanks for bearing with us on a long hiatus from Show and Tell, a podcast about movies. You shut your mouth. Don't you say anything negative about our fan. My name is Jesse Hughes.
And I am Daniel A. Gilmore.
We're talking about this movie called Beginners. 2010, written and directed by Mike Mills, who also directed a movie called Thumbsucker. Don't know anything about it.
Oh, I love Thumbsucker.
Is it good? Oh,
yeah.
Okay, cool. I was a Thumbsucker.
Were you? I was not.
At a young age.
But it's a good movie.
Take it away. What'd you think? Like it? Hate it? Favorite movie of all time?
That's the last thing we talk about.
Yeah.
Don't try and trick me, Jesse.
My first note is, right at the beginning.
What's your first note then? Take it away.
Opens with an empty home, and an empty home, is going to stir up emotions for pretty much any viewer. What does an empty home mean to you? It's, it's an ending, it's a beginning, it's packing and moving out and starting something new, or in this person's case, as you discover pretty quickly, he is cleaning up after his father's died. I just like the imagery of that empty home and that stack of bags that, here's all the belongings of his father's. How much of that did he go through? How much of that will he go through? And how much of it is just considered garbage? Has these emotional attachments only to the individual that owned them,
That was kind of funny. I was going through some of my stuff because, as you know, I'm trying to sell everything.
You're a hoarder.
Yeah, I'm just trying to sell everything. But I was just like, I don't have any emotional attachment to anything I own.
Well, good.
But it's amazing how much crap I have.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to know that there's no emotional attachment there. I like to think of my stuff as providing me experiences that are unique to me, and that's why they're important to me. But there's no emotional attachment there.
Yeah, exactly. I think my first just note was I thought that was a weird way to fold clothing. But then as you realize what was going on, It makes a little bit more sense.
How is he folding it?
Well, he just takes everything out with the hanger still on them, and then just kind of plops it in.
That's what I do when I move. I have all my stuff is on hangers, and I literally grab it, throw it on the top of everything in the moving truck, and hope that it stays in order because it's all it's all organized.
Yeah. I guess I have quite a bit of clothing, as Hal did too.
Yeah,
it appears.
Yeah.
Then he's dumping all the drugs in the toilet. And is that the proper way that you would dispose of drugs?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly.
I was in forensic speech and debate, and I remember a specific speech about disposing of drugs and how that's one of the worst ways you can dispose of drugs. You're supposed to go online and double check, what's in it, and it'll tell you, the proper way to dispose of it. So, he probably killed a bunch of fish or something.
For a guy that knew a lot about random crap, he did not know about how to throw out drugs.
And then it's into Ewan McGregor's character's of Oliver, his apartment, and he's now has his father's dog,
Arthur,
and he's showing Arthur around.
Yeah,
and
he's just giving the dog a tour.
I love it. Yeah,
and speaking to it as it's a person.
This is the first instance of the shadows of his father that have rubbed off on him, is that personality he has with inanimate objects like his house and the dog who cannot communicate with him. He speaks to him like he's another person. And it's kind of cool that he's kind of ushering this shadow of his father around, something that was really attached to his father, and then also that character trait from his father that's rubbed off on himself as he is communicating with this dog, like the dog can talk back.
Well, then he even says, you need to learn to talk to me.
Now, the version that you watched, and I didn't discover that till this time, but the version that you watched, did it have subtitles for the dog?
No.
So the dog has dialogue in the movie, and I didn't realize this the first time I saw it. And apparently there are some versions that don't have the dialogue in it. So I'll go over what the dog is saying at certain points. I think
I'm almost glad I didn't see that version.
Well, some of it, some of the earlier stuff he says is really serious, and then some of it is silly, but it's not. It's clever. It's not, it's not out of place.
Okay.
Although the dog's not barking when he's saying things. It just shows the dog, and there's a subtitle there. And then he jumps into his first of three major comparisons of his timeline compared to another timeline.
Well, he says 1955, was it?
Correct.
The first one? And
2003
then
versus
2003.
Yeah, This Is How People Kissed. So it's him thinking about and asking you to think about what life was like compared to your parents, compared to those who brought you up, and what is it like for you. And that the movie kind of touches on, as it goes along, the hardships that person endured compared to the hardships you're enduring, and how they differ, how they're the same, which is pretty cool. I think I
think we're a big generation that does that.
Yeah.
Is, I wish I was born in the wrong time.
Right. Yeah, I hear that.
Wish I lived in the 50s. Wish I lived whenever. Blah blah blah. But then they never consider that negative aspect.
The downside of it. Exactly.
The still images, that was kind of my first note. I don't know if I like that idea.
I was wondering if you would, like that approach to directing, I guess, or editing, really.
I like Wes Anderson when he does it.
Yeah.
But it's, I wish he had done it more in that style then.
Throughout the movie, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Instead of having those moments where he resorts to that, and then the rest of it's just this straight-laced drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I liked it. I thought it really spiced the movie up. Like, it is a very straight-laced, this simple drama that's all about the little details, but then interspersed throughout when you just kind of feel like maybe, okay, what's going on? What's going to happen? They kind of spice it up with those scenes where the directing kind of throws you for a loop. You're going, oh, this is like a different movie. But I thought it worked. They show, so he's talking about his father. One of the first quotes I pulled up from the past as he's talking to his father, when his father's talking about being gay, he says, I don't want to just be theoretically gay. I want to do something about it. Yeah. I thought that was a cool line. It's something that I'm sure a lot of people, wherever you're oppressed, you probably know how that feels.
So that was my first question then, having finished the movie. He says, I want to do something about it. Mm-hmm. It seemed like he was having sex in the past at the end.
Well, yeah, they talked about, he did things about it, but, he was having sex in bathrooms. He was having to hide. He was, he wasn't himself. He didn't, the general public did not, people he ran into on the street.
Being like out.
Exactly. Being out and being proud of it and being comfortable with it and, not having to worry about the repercussions being negative, I like that. I like that the movie is up front with you at the very beginning. We know that his father is dead. Everyone in every movie dies, but we don't always see it on screen. We don't always, it's not always part of that story. And I like that they tell you that up front to let you know that this is a movie that is, like all great movies, about the journey and not what happens, at the end.
Mm. Okay. Well, yeah, it wasn't really so much about his father's death anyway. It was about how he was dealing with it.
Right, exactly. And that's,
and then it was, I think, more about the past anyway.
Exactly.
And how his familial relationships and their relationship affected him and his past and future.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of what I like about the movie. Very early on is the first dog subtitle. It's when, it's that line you said, we need to start speaking to each other. The dog says, I can understand 150 words, but I can't speak. It's like, fair enough. Okay. But Ewan McGregor responds to the dog during the moments when the dog has subtitles. Ewan McGregor responds as though he understood that subtitle, which I think is cool because the idea then could be that this is what he's imagining. Those words there. Exactly. Yeah. This is what he's imagining the dog saying.
Which would make more sense, though.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you noticed it, but on the dog park bench, there's Olympic rings.
No, I didn't say that.
I was just staring at it the whole time. I was like, why are there Olympic rings on this park bench?
They're at an Olympic dog course.
I guess. I don't know. It was just really weird. It was like a weird little detail. I was like staring at it.
I loved that, as he's talking to the dog. Again, just talking to him like he's another person and just laying it to him straight. This is what you are, man. How do you feel about that? And Ewan McGregor's attitude towards him is never condescending. And I like the way he treats, the dog, Arthur.
So, yeah, I was jumping back a little bit back when he says his mother died of cancer. Mm-hmm. Then they show her, and she had said something. I didn't write down what it was, but it made her seem like, or she had like dementia.
What'd she say? You didn't write down. She's really fun, and you'll notice throughout the movie those little.
Oh no, that was it. He said she was jumping back and forth to the present and the 55s.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, that's not like a cancer thing though.
That's true.
She was like losing her head.
Too. Well, I mean, yeah, you kind of see his father losing his mind too in the hotel room when he starts talking about the gardens and things like that. Mm-hmm. I like the one of the earlier scenes with his father in the hospital. He asks Oliver if he's married to the nurse, and he says no, and he says, you've always had some very good reasons. So it establishes Oliver as this lonely person who has a hard time with relationships, which is a lot of his, a big part of his character throughout. I.e. Dan Gilmore. Yeah, that's right, ladies. His phone number is.
Yeah, all the ladies that listen to this, here's that mom.
I like that scene, with his mom where she walks by him and waves her hand and then he dies. So they have this funny little thing that they do where she'll, walk in on him and pretend she's killing him. And they bring that scene back where they show about 2 seconds before it, which I think is cool, and we'll reference that when we get there.
Well, I like, because I'm just kind of going through my notes too, where he talks about memory versus reality. Mm-hmm. And he says, like, when the dad tells him he's coming out as gay, and he goes, I remember him wearing the purple shirt or whatever it was.
But in reality
he was wearing this robe. Or
and I think about that too. And it's like, I'll tell a story from a week ago and I'll add, a little bit of, make it a little spicier than it really was. And then like 2 years later, I look at that story as I'm still telling it, and I go, wait, did this really happen? It sounds kind of ridiculous now.
Yeah.
Now that, did I add this? And then eventually you believe everything you've added to it just as much as anybody else.
Because, I'll talk about that with a couple of my friends that I've known for... And, we have these stories like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we will eventually.
Yeah.
The longer we know each other.
I'm like, did my history teacher call me a butt pirate? I'm pretty sure he did. I told everyone he did, and it was hilarious. But, yeah, he did.
But, yeah, no, exactly. But it's just those little details, too. Because they're like, oh, then this guy did. There was one we were in a band in high school, and we won, like, a talent show. And we were practicing after the talent show to do something else. And, one of the guitarists goes like, I created you, Dan. And I go, oh, really? And I just stood up and left and like drove out of the house as I remember it. When I came back, everybody was like, oh, Dan, you did like a donut and like peeled out of the driveway. And so like this is this whole story. Now I'm like, I don't remember doing
Dan
that.
went out just hog wild. You were on your motorcycle?
No. It was in high school.
In a car.
Had this old Buick Century. Like,
screw you guys.
It's just one of those things. It's just like, how much is reality or like versus what actually happened?
Exactly. I like to question it as little as I possibly can. I like, speaking again to the variety of the movie, I like the scenes where he's drawing the album art for the band that wants him to draw an album based on their idea.
That was one of my notes later. I was just like, what is his job?
Well, yeah, at first is he making books, or is this just something he does in his free time, or, what is his job?
I was like, I kind of clearly noticed it was a job, and especially like the lady came over and said like, oh, they want more of these or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of like, oh, what is this guy's job?
Yeah.
Because then eventually, it seems like he's having a breakdown in his job.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
Prints out that whole thing.
And I think based on the reactions the band is having to what his work, they're just like, no, this is not. And I'm wondering if their album was even about sadness. Like, was it?
I think that was their name.
Was that part of it? Or the Sads? Is that the name of the band?
Yeah, I think that was the name.
Yeah. I like to think that wasn't even... That wasn't even the name of the band.
That'd be even
he's
better.
Just so overcome with this loneliness that it's seeping into his work. And then, so he's at work. This is the first time we see him at work. His friends come over and they're talking to him kind of like the way he talks to the dog, because they haven't, they're having a hard time communicating with him. And they're saying, hey, the pencil is not your friend. The pad is not your friend. Your friends are your friends. The party is your friend. Let's go. And then
I was like, great costume. Freud.
Yeah, fantastic Sigmund Freud costume.
He was Freud, yes.
He has to bring Arthur with him, which I love, and he has to bring him pretty much everywhere, throughout the movie, because he's sad when he's left alone, and he knows that Oliver has this connection to his father and Melanie Laurent.
Yeah, I was just like, that girl is cute, because they show really quick when she turns around, and she has the wig on and stuff.
Yeah.
And then a couple notes later, sorry. She takes it off. I was like, oh, it was the short hair that did it for me.
Oh yeah,
she's still
put
gorgeous.
It back on.
She's still gorgeous.
She's a great actress. Mike Mills originally did not intend for Anna, her character, to be French. He asked her if she could, change her voice to match. She was gonna be American, and she couldn't. So apparently, Melanie Laurent can't speak anything other than her French accent.
Yeah,
and so he changed the character to be French. So that's a testament to how much he wanted her in the role, and she really did fit for it. I liked the laryngitis thing. It's a very unique way to start a relationship, and it was from a story that Mike Mills had heard from a friend of his, so it was somewhat biographical. And I thought that was a really, it's a way to make a tired, cliche of these two meeting at a party. They're going to develop this relationship, and it's going to be his saving grace. It's a really cool way to develop that, and in a way that not a lot of us have experienced. Why are you at a party if you're sad? She asked him that, and I'm going, because I'm sad. That's what I do when I'm sad. I go to a party. At the costume party, Melanie Laurent is not playing Charles Chaplin, but Julius Rosenberg. So, random piece of trivia there.
I was wondering about that too.
Yeah,
I knew she wasn't Chaplin.
Yeah, I know.
Like that was obvious.
I just had no idea.
But yeah, I wasn't sure which silent actor that would have been.
So it's a cool scene where you see Oliver and Anna dancing. And then it cuts back to Christopher Plummer's character, Hal, dancing and doing his imitation of house music Or what he was talking to. He was talking to Oliver on the...
It's probably house. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, Christopher Plummer doing house music. I love that. At 82 years of age, Christopher Plummer won an Academy Award for the Best Supporting Actor for this film. He was the oldest, or is still, to my knowledge, the oldest person to receive an Oscar. And another funny thing is he was originally supposed to be... His character was supposed to be played by Max von Sydow. I don't know if I'm saying that name right.
Yeah.
Who was also nominated that same year, and they're both the same age. So he was nominated for whatever movie he picked over this one. I can't remember what it was. I probably have it down here. Hold on just a sec. Let me pull it up. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. He played a mute in that movie.
Still haven't watched that movie.
And he was nominated. That's a really good movie. I don't know if it'll be a recommendation, but yeah, you can go and watch it.
Yeah, that was one of the books that's on my like read list, because like I wrote like 3 or 4 different books. Because he did that, and Everything is Illuminated and something else.
Oh, okay. And then we got more dog speak here. Oh, so I like that scene where they're revealing themselves to each other, taking off their costumes, and oh, good, you're pretty. All right,
and they still haven't introduced each other.
Yeah, exactly. The dog then speaks at that time and says, this is dark. He says, tell him we will be swallowed up. He's speaking to Anna. Tell him we will be swallowed up by darkness if nothing drastic happens right now. I'm like, dang, dog. We got to get you out of this party. Why are you so sad if you're at a party?
Just as he's leaving the party, fake bow tie. He was wearing a fake bow tie.
Ah, for shame.
It was like it wasn't even like a clip-on one. It was like a button.
I haven't worn a bow tie since I was like 13, but I wouldn't have the slightest idea how to tie a real bow tie.
Yeah, I don't know how to, I know how to tie a tie as well, and a couple different knots, but bow ties kind of elude me. My drummer, on the other hand, though, wears them regularly at our shows.
That's classic.
And can tie them.
That's one of my regrets, is I haven't worn nearly enough bow ties. I like that she calls him right away, and then she's speaking to him. One for yes, 2 for no. She never says no. Oliver walks in and says, hello, House. Hello, Oliver. And it's just kind of this funny character trait, but then you see
the dad doing it.
Hal do it later, and that was another cool connection to his father. And, they have this really distant relationship throughout the scenes that you see between them in the movie, but there's... Hal is a really kind of this electric personality he has. He's like he says, he's not a very exciting guy. He's not an extremely emotional guy, but he's just
a big personality.
Yeah, he has a big personality, and he's kind, and he's fun, and he's very carefree. And Oliver clearly admires that, and throughout the movie wants to be closer to that, but he's watching all these other people around him get to be the ones that are closer, and I think that's ultimately... Just like his other relationships, he's always running away from that relationship because he doesn't know how to be that person. And so we get to see over and over again, even up until the very end, him wishing that that's what he could be for his father. And not that, and maybe he feels like his father doesn't need it because he has it from so many other people. So maybe that's another thing that is making him sad.
Well, then they show too, though, because he even says, I was never close with my father kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? It was never tender with me, whatever.
Right.
And he goes, as a child, you used to want to hold my hand.
That would be weird.
Yeah. My next note was just quarter.
The quarter thing, the breakdown.
Yeah.
And it's kind of him visualizing the spread of that quarter. What's that? What else is that quarter represented by? Here's all these things that take up even more space. And that's where that quarter has gone from, into the rest of his body. Representing cancer. It sucks. And then it flashes back to a scene between Oliver and his mother. And she tells him to go in his room and just scream. And then
I just said worst parental advice ever.
I love her. She's not a good mother.
As a character, yeah, she's interesting. But I don't think any of these characters are particularly good people or relatable.
That's true. I mean, relatable. I think some people could relate to them in some ways. But yeah, good people. That's kind of a toss up. They don't really tell you enough, I think, to make that judgment. But they're interesting, and I think that's what's important in this case.
But the mother was definitely unhinged.
Yeah, definitely. And she was silly. She was fun to watch as a result. But yeah, it probably had a toll on him. But I like his, I don't feel like screaming. And she's saying, you will, in reference to life, you will want to scream. And then they're making graffiti. And I love Ewan McGregor's historical graffiti trivia. Historical consciousness.
1983 Chicken McNugget.
Yeah. And I was like, Britney Spears most Googled 2003. Yeah.
But yeah, that was just she's not a good mom. And the dad didn't... You don't really see their relationship.
Yeah.
So, but he seems...
You hear about it.
He seems almost absentee then from that.
And he probably was. That's probably a representation of him pulling himself away because he wanted something else. They're in Anna's apartment, or hotel room.
Yeah.
And there's a couple different moments in the movie, and this is probably the only one I put down, where someone will say something and I'll think something, and then that character will say or do exactly what I was thinking. And this is like, oh, will you get my camisole? He reaches to grab something like he knows what he's doing, but I'm going, what's a camisole? And then she's just like, this isn't a camisole. What is a camisole? It's a blouse? I don't.
Yeah, I believe it's like a shirt or blouse kind of thing.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. I know it's like one of those Spanish words that I learned, and they're pretty close. I think it's the same word, literally, Spanish and French.
All right. I'm about to take off my camisole. And then he breaks down different types of people. There are those who think things will never work out, and then there are those who believe in magic. And I like the distinction between the two, because believing that everything is going to be okay is so astronomically not likely that it can only be considered magic, especially to him, someone who is in the former camp. Things will never work out. And the world is like a war between these two types of people. And I agree with that.
I think that's silly.
You think that's silly? That the world works that way?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because, like, the world's gray. You're not black or white. Like, things work out or they don't.
I think overall, yeah. But I think if you look at just the little, like an individual trait of a person, there's an individual trait of one person that says yes and the other person says no. And it's an interesting dynamic, and kind of what makes, the human race unique is that someone can be absolutely certain about something that someone is absolutely certain is wrong, So the dog speaks here. He says, I've never seen such a girl. When are you getting married? This is the first of two times he says, when are you getting married?
Yeah, and I just again, like, asking who the mother was. Yeah. She's just nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's, losing her mind because she married someone who she knew was homosexual with the intention of fixing him because she thought that's what he wanted. He thought that's what he wanted. And of course that did not work, and so but
then she was upset about it,
other than coming unhinged. Yeah. And then you see that for the first time, the only time, Hal saying hello to his house, and then you're going, oh, okay, I see where Oliver gets this, and you're seeing the reflection of his father and himself, despite the fact that they were distant. There's things that have rubbed off on him, and it makes me think about all the ways. Growing up, I grew up with a big family, and there were, these times where it was just like, we're so annoyed by each other. We want to, we want to be the exact opposite of this person, or we want to take what we know is unfavorable about this person and try to make it the opposite. But then as we grow up, we realize there's reflections of that person in us, and we realize those are not bad. I mean, some of them are, but some of them aren't. But I think about some of the ways that my father has rubbed off on me, ways that I wouldn't anticipate, like his corny jokes, growing up. He would just, it's a classic dad thing, but just telling the cheesiest jokes and thinking they're hilarious and just laughing at them, and us rolling our eyes and being like, that is never going to be funny to me. And now I'm there, I'm already, I say the corniest, and it's like, I don't know. The only way I can explain it is I'm already married. I have no one to impress other than my wife, and she's stuck with me whether it's funny or not, so I'm just going to go for it. So it's like the odds are more in my favor because I'm going to tell more jokes, and eventually one of them is going to be funny to everybody. So I understand, Dad. I get it. I love you.
No, it's the same with me. Just you look at your, they're annoyed by a parent because you're a parent. And you look and you're like, oh, I've got all these traits from them.
Right.
So like him.
Yeah, well, exactly.
And then me, I look just like him too.
Yeah, you do. It's crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I've got my dad's nose. All of us boys do. Except for Jacob. I like the giraffe elephant reference he always wanted.
Oh, yeah, he said he'd wait for the...
What he wanted was an elephant?
Lion.
He wanted the lion, yeah. I want an elephant, personally.
He was the giraffe.
You can be alone, or you can be with the giraffe. And
I'll wait for the lion.
I'll wait for the lion.
He wasn't so worried.
Don't settle. There's a lot of luck involved, but you have to learn how to live your life to increase your odds of meeting the right person, basically. Then he's going back to his art as he's creating this album art, and he's talking about how the earth began and sadness has not yet been invented.
That's my favorite.
I like that.
It's the sun, and just earth, and then sadness not yet invented.
First couple, and then apparently sadness is invented when the first couple that doesn't really love each other gets married. That's then alcohol invented. Yeah,
Egyptian times.
Yep. And then we're back to Oliver and Hal together, as Oliver is clearly in this scene trying to understand his father. And his father, kind of sees it in his eyes and says, I like Andy, which is his boyfriend. I like Andy because he isn't like me. And that kind of made me think of Oliver and Anna. Is that why Oliver's attracted to Anna and vice versa? Because they are not like each other. They're from two different worlds.
But they are kind of similar, though, too.
Exactly. And so are Hal and Andy. That's the thing. Is they're similar in a lot of ways. And so it's funny that this is yet another way that Hal is rubbing off on his son. We can see this trait of Hal in Oliver and the way he approaches relationships.
Just when they kept showing their relationship, as in Anna and Oliver, and I was just like, they have a terrible relationship.
Why do you say that?
I just thought, I didn't think it seemed like a good relationship.
Well, it's a relationship. It's a beginning. They're beginners. Yeah, it's the beginning of their relationship. So it's hard to, you can't really say it's good or bad to me anyway. But I liked it because there's a lot of conversation involved and a lot of honesty. Like they start with a lot of honesty in terms of like her knowing he's sad and him, when he's at his lowest points, just telling her, look, if you want out of this, you can get out of this. Here's why I'm sad. This is what I've been through. And her saying, I don't know if I can compete with what you've been through. So I like their relationship because of its honesty.
That's the best type of relationship. Like that's the only way you can find a relationship.
And she tries to relate to him by explaining her ability to leave people is tied to her ability to leave physically because she is in, a different city every week or every month. And he points out that you can stay in the same place and still find ways to leave people. He is a pro at that. So exactly. So it's this other way that they relate and are also kind of explaining themselves to each other and kind of telling each other, you don't have an excuse and neither do I. So we have to make this work, kind of as this subtext to it.
The dad's talking about all the gay stuff that he has, and he's like, "Oh, it's Gay Pride magazine. That's the gay book club."
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "What about the chair?
Is the chair gay?
The chair's not gay,
yeah.
Obviously."
Anna's dad is calling her throughout the movie. Well, twice in the hotel, and then we discover that he confesses his suicidal thoughts to her.
Well, when she first meets him, she mimes him shooting himself in the head. Yeah, because she goes, well, your mother, and she didn't have one. And then she goes, well, dad.
That's right.
And then does this.
Yeah.
So I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
So when she says it's my dad calling, I was confused.
It could be this symbolic thing, and it's not really happening. Maybe it just symbolizes how ingrained in her he is, and represents a rockier part of their relationship in a different way than them having a conversation about it or her shutting herself down or whatever actually happens. Although, they don't seem to do that with anything else. There's no symbolism with anything else. So it wouldn't make sense. But that's, that's a good point so there's a point when, Oliver talks about everything you have to do when someone close to you dies and you're responsible for them. Maybe that's all the people that call her in reference to her father dying, and so that she sees that as that's my father. That's the ghost of my father. It could be that too, or it could just be her father, and he, is suicidal, but has not yet committed suicide.
But yeah, I like that breakdown when he talks about that, just how you deal with people dying.
And then there's a lot of flashback scenes with Hal. Where he has, according to Oliver, forgotten that he's sick or convinced himself he's getting better.
That's my favorite. Stage 4 cancer.
Yeah, it's just like,
he's like, why are you telling people you're 5. Okay?
Yeah.
No, it just meant it's been through 3 other stages. Well, I think he did convince himself up until the nurse tells him not to come in for treatment.
Right, exactly. And you can see that in his face. Yeah. And he's just like, wow, all of my positivity cannot save me from this. And then he rewrites Jesus' death, which is hilarious.
That was hilarious.
I was like, what is happening right now? He's like, yes, it was far too violent.
Or he asked her to move in, and they were like,
yeah, that's my next thing. Talks about moving in, and
I just said she had weird feet.
That's what threw everything off. Well, I was wondering what causes him to tell her to move out, because there's not really a moment in there. It's the feet. It's got to be. I like her
These
face
are her feet.
When she asks him if he cooks, and then he kind of hesitates. He's like, yeah, and then like just all the things her face goes through, all the excitement she's feeling at hey, he wants me to move in with him. This is going to be something new. Then they go back, as she's moving in, he talks about, here's what the stars look like in 2003 when she's moving in with me, and this is what pretty looks like,
and all cries.
Yeah, exactly. And now instead of him thinking about other people in time, more of it is about what's going on in his life. And he compares it, he's comparing the hardships that his father went through and his mother went through. They went to throughout the movie he's comparing their hardships to his, or just talking about their hardships, or talking about the hardships his father went through in 1955 as a homosexual. And now he's talking about what they're going through and how things are different. They didn't go to the same war. They don't have to have sex in the bathroom and things like that. But I like the underlying message, and he doesn't outright say it, but it's the message that I get out of it is here's my mom and dad's relationship. Here's my relationship. They're two completely different things, but they're still hard. And so the message I get out of that is love is just hard. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's a hard thing to maintain.
Well, like he says something like, their position allows them to feel things that their parents didn't.
Right.
And it was like the sadness their parents didn't, or something like
right.
that.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
And I really like that. Yeah, my next thing was just that Velveteen Rabbit quote.
Yeah, he talks about there being a different meaning to each color on the gay pride flag. I wasn't aware of that. I thought that was cool. And yeah, the Velveteen Rabbit reference, everything he says is very pertinent to the story that's happening in this movie. And then it just gets my heartstrings because that is such a beautiful book. Like, it's like Pixar before. It's like in book form, I love it.
Just anything with rabbits, man. Watership Down.
You can't be ugly except to people who don't understand. Fantastic quote. And that's from the Velveteen Rabbit. Yeah. And then the dog speaks again. And I think he says it to Anna this time. When are you getting married? I like so now she's moving in and he's introducing, again, a very Hal thing for Oliver to do. Very much like his father. He's introducing this. He has a picture of his parents and he's introducing them as though they're there. Yeah. Hal... Anna Howe, and then I can't remember his mom's name, but I thought that was cool. That was a cool little touch for his personality. And then she cries, and it's kind of this mix between happiness and being overwhelmed, or maybe she's just sad that he's still sad and she's there. And then we're seeing all these flashbacks of his parents kind of drifting apart and how that was affecting him as a child. And
the mom losing her mind.
Right.
Because it was her resting her head.
Yeah, on the stranger. Yeah. And then his appendix has ruptured, and he's a very composed. Yes, I was just like, what is with this lady?
And then she does the driving thing to point to
again, yeah. And then another thing that you've seen him do previously, and then you're like, okay, it's all kind of coming together. And it's kind of, I think, the idea, because there's not really a definitive thing that tells you why Anna moving in didn't work, because it appears to be like they show us a day and then he's just like, yeah, this isn't, I'm not any happier than I was. He asks her if she's happy to be there, and she says, maybe I'm not perfect at it, but I want to be here. And then he says, that I still don't think this is what I'm supposed to feel like. And it's, you're kind of wondering, what's happened. But I think it's that. I think it's thinking about the past. And like he says later on, I believe things are not going to work, and then I make sure that they don't, so that I was right in the first place. And I think that's what's happening here. So,
well, it's a lot of people, just self-fulfilling prophecies and stuff.
Right. He's sitting down, and Dr. Long, his doctor, is telling him again not to come for treatments anymore, and we see his face transform. But I like his line, "Thank you, Dr. Long, for coming to the party."
Yeah.
And of course referencing maybe she came to one of his parties, but I like the idea of his life as a party. Thank you for being a part of it. There's more dog speak a little later on. Anna's already left, and the dog says, "We knew it wouldn't work even before we met her." That's so sad. And so that's a line that kind of tells you this is him putting these words into the dog, because the dog seems to be a pretty positive dude. And then he goes and tries to get, he's decided, okay, I'm going to go to New York, meet up with Anna. He decides to leave. Yeah, leaves him with Elliot. As soon as he closes the door, bark, 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 bark. And then he's in the car with the dog again. You're like, yeah, he's coming for more journeys. Then he takes him to Andy, and
then Andy again, is it because I'm gay?
he's heartbroken that he never came to see him.
I know.
He's his father's son, and it's
which is the most heartbreaking line.
But I love
my father loved you so much.
It's because he loved you, yeah. Like that's what he wanted, and it was hard for him to know that he couldn't be that person. And then he, shuts the door, and the dog doesn't bark. It's like, oh man, heartbreaking. I thought he was going to leave it.
I thought he was going to give him to him.
Yeah, I thought he was going to let him go. I was like, well, that's kind of mean. You got Anna, and now he's but yeah, it's like giving up your child.
But what was the whole thing with Andy? Like, Andy had other boyfriends?
Yeah, they were promiscuous, basically. Okay. So that was what gave Hal an excuse to put himself on Match.com or whatever it was, and be promiscuous himself. Oh, at this point, I wrote one song. I was trying to figure out why I wrote that. Like, throughout the whole movie, the soundtrack is like this one piano song. Like, that's probably the one negative I would say about the movie. It's a good song, but there's not really a soundtrack. There's a lot of opportunity to have kind of these different emotional arrangements in there, and they really just have the one. So that's something I would change about the movie. But other than that,
romantic or creepy?
Going to see her in New York, I think it's romantic. I think
Doubler or Dahmer.
I think creepy is getting in the car and then maybe calling her on the way, and that, you know, in hindsight, that would have saved him a lot of time because he would have known that she was in L.A. But no, I think it's romantic in their case because they left on a bad note, and it wasn't any big revelation or someone was cheating or anything like that. That, you know, that's creepy, but. No, it's just, okay, we messed up, and I really am in this, and I want to show her by showing up at her door. And it still shows her that even though she's not there. So it was kind of like this, you know, no matter what, it was going to get the message across, even if in the back of his head he was like, maybe she's not there. I don't know what she's doing right now. So then we have the actual death, and we see the actual death of his father, and he wasn't even in the room at the time. Juan was fixing his hair, and then he comes and tells him as he's sleeping on a table. And that's kind of symbolic of his relationship with his father throughout his life, is that, you know, he's there, but he's at a distance, and he just absolutely loses it.
The hair thing was hilarious.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool scene. Yeah.
He's like, I love your hair.
It's like, I'm going to put some gel in it. It looks great. But yeah, this really heartbreaking, you know, scene as he, you know, is embracing his dead father. And then he breaks down death, and that's something really interesting to think about that you don't really think about is everything that goes into the work you have to do when someone has passed, and you have to take care of all their, you have to tie up all their loose ends, basically.
I just wrote, my last note is best obituary ever.
Oh, I didn't even read the obituary. What is it?
It was just his Match.com ad.
Was it? Oh, I didn't realize that.
I didn't know if he was submitting that as the obituary, but if it was, it would have been great.
That's awesome. No,
I feel like the dad would have loved that.
That's cool. I wasn't paying attention to what he was writing. I was just sitting there with my mouth agape thinking, wow, all this responsibility
because it was just the thing. Like, he's like, I'm 70, whatever. I'm an older man.
That's funny. That's something he would have wanted.
Yeah,
that's a good obituary.
That's how I viewed that.
And I like the ending of the movie. They're sitting on the bed, and it's, the movie really leaves us where it started. As far as their relationship goes, it's pretty one note, but it's all about these little details of, the reflections of his past that are keeping him from allowing himself joy in his relationship with Anna. And so we see them kind of start anew at the end of the movie. We've been through this hardship, and we still want to be with each other. We still want to make this work. How do we do that? We don't know. This part of the relationship is going to be completely new to them because they just finished the part they're used to with other people, just cutting it off and running.
Yeah.
And so this is all new to them, and that is where the concept of beginners comes from. And so I thought it was really, I love the ending. Trivia time. Just a couple things. I threw a couple in there, but there's not a whole lot of trivia here. But Ewan McGregor was not a dog owner before he made the film. During the course of the shoot, he decided he wanted to get a dog, so he got a poodle. So he's a proud owner of a poodle, according to the trivia I read. But of course, this movie came out in 2010. Cosmo is the name of the dog for the film. He was cast because Mike Mills liked that he would look you in the eye. So it was like he had an old soul and he could understand you. And so he would look at me in the eye. That's why Mike Mills cast Cosmo. Melanie Lawrence said that Cosmo didn't like her very much. He had a very close relationship with Ewan McGregor and the director Mike Mills, and she said that the dog didn't like her very much.
Pretty funny.
The film was mostly shot in chronological order. So I'm assuming that means, they filmed all of the stuff from before, when his father's dying, and then everything with him and Anna. That's Beginners. Good flick. I recommended it because selfishly I just wanted to watch it again. It was a movie it went under my radar, and a friend recommended it a few years after it came out, I believe. And I just thought it was really great drama, really unique view on relationships and mirroring the things that those who brought us up have been through. So,
only thing you didn't mention was it was semi-autobiographical.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you did look up trivia. Dan, there are rules here. It was that was like one of my first notes, and I decided that did make sense to talk about right now. But yeah, it's semi-autobiographical.
Well, I didn't even mean to look it up. I was looking up something else.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, based on his life. And I was like,
sure, Dan.
Jesse is going to be so upset.
We have to watch a different movie.
I was going to just...
Now we'll watch Big Trouble. Semi-autobiographical. Mike Mills went through something similar with his father. And
I've
that's
never
where he
seen
came.
Big Trouble.
And I wish. And that's kind of where that inspiration came from, and maybe explains why he doesn't have a whole lot of movies, because you have to find your own inspiration.
His relationships are just so fucked up.
This was his,
He can't make movies.
This was his last, most recent film in 2010. So 6 years ago.
I'm gonna text him and have him direct my movie.
That's cool.
It'll be perfect.
I think it'd be good. He's a good director. 3 out of 5. Boom.
On the nose.
Well, we got done with the movie. And Amy and her mom were talking about it. Amy was like, it was a little slow. It was a good movie, but it was a little slow. And Amy's mom was like, I really liked it. There wasn't any points where I wanted it to end. And they were like, you think Dan will like it? I was like, he's going to give it a 2.5. And they were like,
that was actually, until we talked about it, that was right? My score.
Yeah, they were just like, really? That bad? And I was like, that's a good score from Dan.
Yeah.
I was like, this movie is very similar to Cashback, and he gave Cashback a 3, but it's not as stylized as Cashback, so I think he'll like it a little less because it's a little one note as you go through it. So, boom. I know my Dan.
You do.
Anyway, I give it a 4. Really solid flick. I'm a fan. Okay, what's the plan next week? What are we doing?
I want you to watch Shallow Grave.
Okay, cool.
Because I think we had mentioned it before. It's
sounds familiar.
What's his face? Danny Boyle.
What year is it?
Actually, I want to say it's 01. Let me double check that.
Yeah, if it's Danny Boyle, I am just so excited. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 5. And
well, yeah, but you haven't seen this one, and you haven't seen the other one, Train Spotting, which I think is the more obvious.
Oh yeah, no,
the more obvious choice to show you. But I don't think a lot of people have seen Shallow Grave.
Yeah. You haven't seen 127 Hours.
Oh, 1994.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
No, you're talking about what? Is it 127 or 187?
127.
Okay. Yeah.
No, 187. You would have been dead. That's too many hours. All right. Cool. Sounds good. So I'm excited. Next week, Shallow Grave. Thank you guys for listening. Next week, it's 2 weeks. We're still on a 2-week schedule, but we're back. We're back to it. Jesse had to move, and then Jesse got sick. It's all my fault.
Yeah, I worked through my sicknesses.
Dan recorded a couple episodes on his own, but
those will never come out.
It's just him yelling and cursing at himself.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, as always, for listening. This is Show and Tell, and my name is Jesse Hughes.
And I've been Daniel A. Gilmore. You have a great day.